Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Roundtable. Welcome to our listening and viewing audience. A special interview with the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew, with members of the media. In collaboration with the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis, we will be having continuous rotation of representatives from the various media houses within the Federation to sit with the Prime Minister to address the many areas of concern and interests within the Federation. With us today, we have three media houses. We have representing ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. Jason Davis, representing SKN Newsline, Mr. Glenn Bant, and representing WinFM, Mr. Devon Cornelius. Thank you all for joining us today. And as usual, you will state your names and the name of your media houses that you're representing before you pose your questions to the Prime Minister. You may ask two questions at a time to afford him time to respond and gather his thoughts. I will now hand over to the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew, who will give his opening remarks, after which the floor will be open to the media houses.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, uh, Mrs. Adelcia Falance. I want to thank all those who are listening by radio, internet, or by whatever means to have taken their time to join us today in this our roundtable. I think this is our third one where I sit down with members of the media and have a dialogue where we can really touch on pertinent issues affecting the Federation and affecting our people. Before I get into it, and I'll give you the opportunity to ask your questions and to have a dialogue, I want to just speak to the issue for which I recently traveled for, and that is the coronation of the King of England, King Charles III. We received, of course, an invitation where we took a delegation that was made up of primarily myself, the Foreign Minister, the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, also the Premier of Nevis, and we also had the Governor General and the Deputy Governor General who also joined us, along with PS from my office and also someone from the Office of Foreign Affairs. And we also met our High Commissioner in London and other nationals who are there, other persons from the Office of the High Commissioner. And so we participated in the events. We actually had some activities to the coronation. We actually had the coronation, then after that, there was the super concert. So I would say that the event was well planned, well executed, and well organized. And so I think that we were able to take advantage of the opportunities that the trip provided. For example, we were able to meet with the UK Caribbean Forum. We were able also to have Commonwealth meeting. We're also able to meet different ministers of government, members of cabinet. For example, the development minister, minister of foreign affairs, minister who deals with CARICOM and so forth, of foreign service, but specifically to the Commonwealth, And we were able to discuss with the Minister of Science, and these different ministers, who they call secretaries, we were able to have meaningful discussion, which I will develop further, and I'm sure you will ask about. So when the question was asked, why is it we took that delegation, I think as we discuss, we will see why a trip like this would have been extremely beneficial outside of just going for the coronation. Let me say that there are many countries that were well represented there, and people took the opportunity to form bonds, to have discussions, to pursue relationships that would result in tangible benefits for our peoples wherever we are found. The Commonwealth, I think, has a great opportunity to reestablish itself as a conglomerate of nations with a significant amount of international influence. I think it gave the opportunity for that renewed setting or the resetting of Commonwealth on the global scene. And so I hope that that opportunity will be taken. I would also say that St. Kitts and Nevis is poised, of course, to continue to collaborate with all these countries. St. Kitts and Nevis has enjoyed, to some extent, a good relationship with the UK, and we seek to strengthen that relationship. We seek to strengthen our operations within the Commonwealth as it provides a great deal of opportunity. There were 2 other countries that were added to the Commonwealth, and it shows that the Commonwealth is really seen by others as an opportunity to participate in a body that can really bring benefits to all. And so that was a very, very interesting aspect of it. I was able to go to the Commonwealth Secretariat and meet the SG and so forth, where we had meaningful discussion. So I had the opportunity to meet King Charles. We had lunch. We had a luncheon, a small group, and he also visited the Commonwealth Secretariat. I was also able to meet the Prince and his wife. We did meet, exchange words. We talked a little cricket, a little football here and there. The Prime Minister of Great Britain, we were also able to meet. And of course, we talk about a lot of things, Commonwealth, how we can build better partnerships, And of course, some cricket came up because it's a cricket-loving nation. I think the Prime Minister said to me, he's interested in the IPL. I tell him he needs to look into the CPL, the Caribbean version. And the Prince says to me he's an Aston Villa fan. I hope that doesn't let him out. But I tell him we have been following British football for a very, very, very long time. And so we are from the same generation, the Prince, myself, and the Prime Minister of India. We are from the same generation. And so we're able to talk on a number of things, and our even social interaction, as I call it, a little bit of small talk. We were able to speak to the things that interest all of us. I say all of that to say that it was quite a successful trip, and a number of critical things that will help our country came out of the trip, and I look forward to continue our strong bond and to build on it with respect to Great Britain and the other members of the Commonwealth. So I will say all in all, it was an excellent trip, and I want to thank the Monarchy and thank the people of Great Britain for their hospitality and kindness that they expressed to us while we were there. And this, of course, we look forward to strengthening over time. And I know you'll have your questions with respect to that as well. As you know, we want to get into the issue of the Ministry of Health, which I'll speak to as well. We have a number of critical things that have taken place there. For example, we have new dialysis machines, about 15 of them, I'll get into that have arrived. We'll have the official presentation tomorrow. Today, we had the presentation of the supplies that came from the Republic of China, Taiwan, that should air on ZIZ, I think this evening or sometime later on. And I want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan for their continued support. I also we are pushing forward on the advanced training of staff in a number of critical training sessions, mainly leadership and advancement. We have also enrolled nurses in specialized care. 8 nurses have applied, and we intend to pursue that they get their specialist training in fields like nephrology, and that's the kidneys, and dialysis, operating room techniques, public health, psychiatry, emergency room, which we are now exploring, critical care. And so through St. Lucian, Jamaica, we are seeking to have our nurses specialized. We also had the specialists who came in. I always promise that we'll have the specialists. They're here. The internal medicine, Dr. Rafael Dominguez and Dr. Julio Hernandez, I want to thank them for coming in as specialists in internal medicine who have started their work at the JNF. And they will have a tremendous impact. You can imagine having more internists there to take care of the plethora of patients that are there. I'm sure the other internists there welcome because this type of assistance, because I used to work there as an internal medicine specialist, and it's a lot of work. You need help. We have the neurologist, Dr. Alberto Laguna, who a neurologist is a person who treats nerves, strokes. We have a lot of strokes in St. Kitts and Nevis, especially of young people. And I could not allow our people to continue to not be treated by a specialist in neurology, which will give them the best opportunity of recovery and so forth. But I still want to stress that prevention is still the best route to go. But we know that some people will get sick, and so we have to make sure we are prepared for that. We have a biomedical engineer, Dr. Laniel Tapana Soto. He's the one who makes sure that all of our equipment are up to date, the blood tests, when he gives you a result, that is the right result, because we now want to extend blood test services at Poxon Hospital and Mary Child. So people don't necessarily have to go to JNF to get these type of things, but we needed an engineer to help us to institute that. And then we have our renowned surgeon, Dr. Zachary Glade. And Dr. Zachary Glade, you know, he's from Harvard Columbia University. As I said before, I was going to bring somebody of his stature to help us to build out our surgical services, to offer surgical services of very, very high standard here. He's going to be here initially for 3 months, going to come back, because we're on our way to creating an accredited hospital. And so that accreditation process will need all these top good professionals from Cuba, from the United States, and other places we'll see them come from to help us to build it out. Of course, we are looking at universal healthcare, which is a major undertaking. We have had the input of PAHO, and so forth. We'll continue the discussion on this so that we can make some more advancement. So we'll put in place soon another committee of a higher level to help us to advance the question of universal healthcare. As a matter of fact, this is one of the major undertakings of the World Health Organization, PAHO, and so forth, because this has to do with social justice. And so we are already on the pathway to pursuing it. But it is important, critically important, that we improve the quality of healthcare here in St. Kitts. As you know, we are building out our health center, our hospital, in terms of providing our hospital with new equipment. We have bought the new eye equipment. We have bought new anesthesiology equipment, so that that is there at the hospital. I think the technician is supposed to come in today to help us to set up that. We have bought the MRI is in pursuit. We are now going to build a specialized area in which to house the MRI so that we can have the MRI this year, so that we can offer it at a reasonable cost and for it to be accessible at the hospital as well. So as you can see, in healthcare, based on what I told the people I would bring, they're actually coming. I know sometimes persons might have their concern, and rightfully so. But I would say that through the process of renewal and implementation, you'll have some little glitches here and there, which I admit will take place. We are all human beings, these are human systems. But nonetheless, I want our people to see the continued progress towards creating a top-class health system here. And the last thing I'll touch on health is that we are finally, the cable has won the bid to build out our healthcare system with fiber optic cables. We are going to connect all the health institutions, that's the 3 hospitals plus the health centers, and we want our private partners like private doctors, pharmacies, and so forth to also connect. So example, Cornelius, if you go to the doctor in Sandy Point and you come to the pharmacy in town, they can actually be able to just type in and see what medication you had. Because, you know, people in St. Kitts still say red tablet, white tablet, and you have a whole lot of them. That can sometimes affect quality of care. So that is going to be delivered, I think, early next year, by the end of this year, but they would start to allow the fiber optic network so that we can institute the health records. So it's amazing how we are accomplishing these things in such a short time. And then lastly, the hospital. We are in the process now of finalizing the financing for it. But what I want is by the time we move into the new hospital, that we would be an accredited hospital. So we go over there and we have a quality of building and structure and equipment, but also quality service. Quality service is critical, and that is why we want to professionalize the nursing services more, send nurses to get specialty training and to have more doctors with specialty. There are a number of doctors here who also want to get specialty training. So we are building out the healthcare system so that we can bring patients from Statia, Sabre, St. Martin, all those around can come sit St. Kitts as a hub for improved medical care, and we are heading towards that at this point in time. Of course, the issue has been a little talk about housing, but I want to say here from the out front that we had promised that we'll build a significant amount of houses. We intend to do that. We have started a serious process in doing that. Housing has been on the minds of our people. They have always asked for the opportunity to own homes, and therefore we are pursuing multiple pathways of building sufficient homes for our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so that is a way in which people can build wealth. Wealth building is critical for us as well. This is a critical way of people being able to own property and real estate in the country in which they were born. I told the people on the platform, I was not so interested in prisons. I am interested in homes, hospitals, schools, education. And that is exactly what we're doing. New hospital, New Bastia High School, the Spectrum Center. We are building out those, expansion of the college, making the college free. Student loans decreased to 5% of new loans, and we are going to do existing loans as well, so that those who are paying $1,500 might get their payment down to $800 and have a little extra money to invest in a home, a business. We said these things, and we are serious. We are going to help our people to build wealth and to become well educated. I want to think it to become the most educated country in this part of the world. Whether we're going to be competing with America, Canada, wherever, I want our people to go to college and to go to universities with as little restraint as possible. That is the way we will survive in the 21st century, getting our people healthy and well educated and well adjusted as well. And so that is the basis for the housing has multiple fronts, of course, to provide housing, which is a human need and part of the sustainable development goals, but we also give people the opportunity to build wealth and to own property and real estate and have a real stake in the country in which they were born. And the front of national security, as you know, there are still some challenges that we are working through. They have launched Operation Reassurance. Some, of course, success have been seen. There are still some issues that have to be resolved. I'm happy with where the new commission is going. We have now coming down to launch a few extra programs within the national security apparatus. And as you know, I am the lead spokesman on healthcare for both the OECS, CARICOM, and also a leading spokesman for CELAC, and a leading spokesman on the World Health Organization from PAHO from this region. And one of the things, apart from national health insurance or universal health care, which I prefer to call it, is that we are looking at dealing with violence as a public health issue. There's evidence-based medicine. Dr. Isabel Williams has been an expert on this, and we are going to put our task force in place. We are going to lead the Caribbean when it comes to this, because we have the experts here, and that gives us a great opportunity of implementing this type of program. And so we are getting ready to launch the task force that will help to implement this type of program with the help, of course, from all the partners that would be involved. So I would say those are some of the main things that we want to discuss today, and I'm open to any questions, especially on these, so that we can have some more information given with respect to them. So I turn it over to you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Ben Barrett from SK Newsline. Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like you just to clarify a couple of things you said with regards to your trip to the United Kingdom.
Yes.
Outside of the coronation.
Right.
You talk about critical things that could help our country. You were not very specific. Can you just explain a little bit what that is? And the other thing is, you did have a meeting with Premier Mark Brantley with regards to the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis. Can you expound on that, as well as what is the status of this task force that indicated was being established to deal with many of the issues?
Thank you very, very much for that. And of course, I left the question and answering period to delve deeper. So I'm happy that you are able to ask some more specific questions around it. One of the things that came out of it is that I spoke to the Minister of Development of the UK. I also spoke to, and in speaking to him, one of the things we discussed is renewable energy. As you know, he told me when we spoke that the UK now gets more of its energy, from wind than fossil fuel. And just before I came here, I was looking at BBC, and there was the report confirming that. So I'm sure if you Google UK energy sources, you'll see that wind. And I said to him, I also had the conversation with John Kerry, the former Secretary of State from the United States of America. And we spoke. I spoke to him about renewable, and I told him wind is an important one because I was informed that he might have spoken to that at some point. I was informed. And in speaking to him, I told him, St. Kitts and Nevis, we have an Atlantic coast that studies have shown is a good source of wind. It can be onshore. He spoke to me about offshore, but I know UK has both. And I told him, let's explore. We're going to explore expeditiously and seriously with the UK to have wind energy done here. They have mastered it. It is now more than fossil fuel sources in the UK. And therefore, that is one of the tangible things that came out. And I want to thank our High Commissioner, Mr. Isaac, His Excellency, who is already pursuing that. So that is one of the tangible things. The other thing I spoke to the Secretary of Science. I'm going to create, from my office perspective, I'm a man of science and understand how important science and technology and innovation. I know how important these are. And I'm going to create that task force, committee to start to look at how we can improve our scientific approaches here in St. Kitts and Nevis, the implementation of new things, technology, and how we can use science to be innovators and not just consumers. And so they are building theirs out, and we are building ours out. And in speaking to the Secretary, we have decided that we will collaborate with them. Because one of the things I spoke on the platform is that I'll build a research lab, and I'm going to pursue that research lab. Because I'm still of the opinion that we have our human resources, an excellent human resource. If we educate people and give people the chance to do research, technology, and all these great things, we can reach far. So that is another tangible thing. So I'm going to pursue renewable energy, and I'm going to pursue the science sector. And also when it came to healthcare, I would announce it here since you speak to what is coming, you spoke about it. I met the surgeon, and I'll get his name. I have his name here. If I get my phone, Adelsia, you can ask for my phone. Oh, it's here. No, my other phone. I want to get his name correct. I store it in my phone. And in that, we discuss bringing renal transplant to St. Kitts and Nevis. Immediately on the phone, I know we have received the dialysis machines. We have received general surgeons, and we're going to increase the surgical equipment for anesthesiology. I am bringing a very experienced anesthesiologist who I've already spoken to, who is Kittitian born, to join our experienced team that is already there. I'm touching base with the lab to do the cross matching to see that will tell you if somebody can receive a kidney from someone else. And the surgeon I'm bringing here in the next 6 weeks. We discussed 6 weeks. And we are going to start to implement the possibility of having renal transplant here. I'm going to push it so that next year we can really pursue our first renal transplant here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Why? There are a lot of our people who are on dialysis. Dialysis helps significantly, and we need to pursue it. I would always say that prevention is better. Control the blood pressure, the blood sugar, your weight, and what you eat. These are the most important. But for those who are already ill, we want to do all that we can to help them. And dialysis is very good, but the best way is to have renal transplant. Renal transplant is becoming routine. And when I see all the patients who go to JNF for dialysis, these young people, why can't they have a renal transplant? Their brother might be able to donate, their sister, their cousin, a friend, a good Samaritan that will give them a leash on life that, of course, they cannot totally and fully enjoy just on dialysis. Sometimes they just have to go to the hospital 3 times a week just to be hooked up to a machine to have their blood clean and so forth. And so that I will pursue. The other thing, and I will offer that to the OECS. The other thing I will offer that I discussed was the whole issue of sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease can be cured, not just treated, cured. And it's interestingly enough that where it is being cured is in Europe. A Europe population of persons who suffer from it is not very large compared to the overall population. And so I had started the discussion at the University of Hamburg Center for Sickle Cell Disease, where they do bone marrow transplant and gene therapy to cure the disease, that why don't you come to St. Kitts and help us to establish a clinic that will serve the OECS and the wider Caribbean. And that has been agreed to in principle, and I'm going to pursue it. I'm already pursuing it. And so those are two things that I think St. Kitts and Nevis can say to the wider Caribbean, that we will make the investment here and offer it to you as well. And so one of the things that I said when I was the keynote speaker at Central Bank recently, where healthcare was at the center of the discussion, is that each country within the OECS should look towards becoming a center of excellence of a particular aspect of medical care. We can do, for example, let's say we do nephrology, kidneys, and sickle cell. Antigua might say, okay, we will do heart disease. The next country might say, we will do neurology or nerve disease. We'll have our own neurologists, but when it gets to a level where you have to go to a specialized center, and it will be cheaper for all of us if we were to do it and pursue it that way. And each country makes the necessary investments, and the patients can move across the OECS. As a spokesman and the lead on it, we're having the OECS authorities meeting here in St. Kitts, where I'll be the chair for OECS, and I'll be pushing that and championing that, and let St. Kitts and Nevis be the lead. So from the UK standpoint, as I told you, those are the things that I pursue. Because when you go to these meetings, you have to go clear-headed. You can't want everything. You have to know this is the direction of my country. Renewable energy is it. Medical advancement to become a hub for good medical treatment so people can come here in medical tourism. So you pick out what fits your country's development and pursue those. And that is what I've done with the necessary ministers from the UK and so forth. And so I look forward to bring news on those. As you can see, a lot of the major things that we have discussed, I'm already pursuing them. So I'm very, very determined in terms of accomplishing these major things that we have promised the people.
The matter of the task force?
Yeah, which one?
The matter with the task force, the meeting you had with
yes, Minister Brantley, we
yes.
discussed a number of critical things, and when he comes back, he should have left on Wednesday. We are going to meet to put names together to get that done. So we discussed issues of St. Kitts and Nevis, development, how St. Kitts and Nevis can work closer together. So this is a national effort. I think for a long time, people will want to see St. Kitts and Nevis work together. When we go out there, if people are still thinking that St. Kitts was seceded from Nevis, I think that they should be thinking something else. Everybody in the world is recognizing that the only way countries can survive is by coming closer together. Imagine people joining the Commonwealth, who are not traditional partners of the Commonwealth. People trying to form this group and that group. And we are connected by the same blood, the same genes. If we can't do it, who else can do it? Who else can do it? Can we say St. Kitts and Nevis should not pursue a policy like this and then we're going to the OECS to look for integration? Who's going to take us seriously? Nobody will take us seriously. So I think St. Kitts and Nevis need to really look at ourselves and really double down and being together and tighter together. And I said that in the campaign trail, and I will pursue it. Even when I'm gone, I want St. Kitts and Nevis to be strong and strong together. The OECS to be strong together. The CARICOM to be strong together. I am saying that we need to form tighter bonds, which will give us the best opportunity to flourish in this challenging world. The world out there is challenging. It's a tough place to be. It's not easy. As a leader, when I go out there, I see what I have to deal with on a daily basis, navigating all the difficulties and challenges and risks and dangers, and look for opportunities so that our people can benefit. The more we are united, the better it is. Why did I took the premier? Because I was meeting the All-Parliamentary Group, which is a parliamentary group in the UK that speak to St. Kitts and Nevis issues in Parliament. They can be from Conservative Party, Labour Party, but they form a caucus to speak to the interests of St. Kitts and Nevis. So if we have people out there in the UK's Parliament and these persons are speaking on the behalf, these MPs are speaking on the behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis should be down here bickering and can't even present a united front to a prestigious group like this to say thank you. And that is one of the fundamental reasons I said that the Premier should join the delegation, to say to them that what you are doing for St. Kitts and Nevis, we as St. Kitts and Nevis. We do appreciate it. And they're the ones who are going to be helping us to pursue the things that I spoke about. And they are really already pushing. One of the things we discussed was pension. For when our UK people come back from the UK, come here, why don't they get cost of living adjustments on their pension that they receive from the UK? And already I receive a position paper on it, less than 24 hours after this discussion. So that even our people who went to the UK and now come back, they should have the best opportunity to live their best retirement. So this is part and parcel of us building our international image as an independent country, fiercely independent, but at the same time, we are a country who want to pursue working with other countries closely, collaboratively, in partnership to bring benefits for all of us.
Jason Davis of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation. You mentioned housing and the construction of the 2,400 homes over the next 6 years, I believe. But there have been some questions in the public arena about the specifics of the housing. An address was made, and it was explained that there are going to be 3 types of homes: 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. But there are still some questions about the size, the square footage, and the land that the homes would be on. So could you give us some more information about the square footage? And also, what can you tell us about the company itself, East Coast Housing Development, that is going to be responsible for building these homes from Trinidad and Tobago?
Right. Let me first of all say that part of our commitment to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is that we will build houses. Houses in the number, we said will be at least 2,000 houses. And the reason why we are pursuing this, as I said before, for the number of reasons. 1, people need housing. 2, it gives you a chance to build wealth. And 3, it gives you a real stake in your country. And so this is built on these principles, which are principles that we have always had, especially in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. We think it's time for a new housing revolution. We had one before, and we are going to pursue it because we want the country now to advance to the next level. So we'll have different pathways of which persons will be able to own homes. And so this is a particular type of development, and I understand that the Minister of Housing would have spoken to it, where your East Coast has come as a development partner to invest their money. They have their means and mechanisms of financing, and so they are coming into our country to pursue a housing development project. They have met with NHC and are partnering with NHC. East Coast is from Trinidad and Tobago, one of our CARICOM members, and we have had companies from Trinidad and Tobago who would have invested in St. Kitts over the years. If you think about it, you will know. But what we want to say here is that this gives the opportunity for a larger number of houses. But in the contract, we put some stuff specifically that we thought were important. 1, that the workers, over 90% of them, must be from St. Kitts Nevis. And I had been writing on my Facebook for months that our contractors are needed, that when we start the housing revolution and we start to pursue these large number of houses, that our people are the one who must build them. Nobody is going to come into St. Kitts and Nevis building houses for our people. And our people are not the contractors. Our people must be the contractors, the painters, the roofers, the carpenters, the masons, the heavy equipment operators, and whoever else, the steel benders if we need that, whoever else will be involved in the construction of these homes. Clear. And also in there is a provision for quality. We have said we want quality that you, of course, have put forward that you can provide. But as an assurance, we have to make sure, quality assurance, just like you, if you go and hire somebody to do something, the person tell you, yes, I'm good and so forth, you have quality assurance in there, because if you're not delivering what I expect of a certain quality, then that would affect the relationship. And so we have that inbuilt as well. So those are two things that I want to get clear, because I'm hearing talk about our local people not getting jobs. When I have been saying that for months, when it's specified in the contract as well, that our people must be the ones to build them. That is important to us, because part of this is to provide jobs for years. We want our people to be working, to be productive. And that is why we are pursuing it. East Coast is a company registered out of Trinidad and Tobago, duly registered and so forth. And we have not seen any reason to think that is not a legitimate company. However, we built our safeguards still in the contract that we signed. These houses, I don't want to reveal everything as yet, because NHC is to have a housing fair. A housing fair, just like how we had a land fair. Today, when I finish speak, NHC is going to launch its website and online application. And so I want to give people some anticipation into what they can expect, to see the model homes and to see the floor plans and to see the 3D depictions of these homes. And so I would leave some of that for NHC. But I would say that these homes will fulfill some of our development agenda, such as one, sustainability. But we'll also look at, can we provide them with solar energy? Already we have approached a company through the Afrexim Bank. Can you provide solar energy in houses? And the same company can also do it, but we're looking at other options. And they have sent their proposal. Because we are serious. I want St. Kitts to become the first country in the Caribbean to go 100% renewable energy. We are going to pursue it vigorously, just as I'm pursuing vigorously healthcare, to make St. Kitts and Nevis the hub for healthcare in this sub-region. So we want that because that is sustainable. Sustainability is sustainable, and it's renewable energy to get off the fossil fuel. And it will cut people's electricity costs down. Can you imagine if you ain't getting an electricity bill? And if your solar panels produce enough, we are looking at the possibility of selling some of that to Skelec, so you can get a little rebate at the end of the month. But we are pursuing that with this as well. We want you to have water, has to be an issue, so that you build a house so that you can have a tank and store water when rain falls. That water you can use for different things, and that can take some stress off the water system that we have. We are going through a drought, which I'll speak to as well, as to what our response would be to the drought. So if I don't bring it up, remember to ask me about that, because I need to give a response on how we are going to deal with the drought, especially for farmers. We are looking at energy efficient refrigerator, energy efficient gas stove. We are looking at creating situations where we are fulfilling our SDGs in providing homes, good homes at reasonable cost, that can be energy sufficient, that can be water harvesting equipped, and can give people the opportunity to own some amenities within those homes. So this is what we are pursuing. But I want to say it again, it's our people going to build. I remember during the campaign, I was driving through St. Peter's and came through an area of St. Peter's, and some guys were there building. And I said, we're going to need you. Within a year, we're going to need you. We're going to need you to build our homes. And at NHC, is supposed to even hold a builder's workshop to see the new technology in building that is coming, to see if we can find ways to improve the skills of our workmen. If you are a mason, why not have when last you ever heard of a workshop for masons? Masons should have a workshop too. Painters should have a workshop. Carpenters should have a workshop. Heavy equipment operators should have workshops. And we are going to create workshops for them so that at the end of the day, they improve professionally, but also they can give good service of high quality to our people. That is what we are going to do. You ever heard of a housing fair? Well, I don't know if they had one before, but they will have one. Have you ever been able to apply online and look at, what you can get, 3D depiction and, Those are the kind of innovation that we are going to bring to the housing solutions. And again, as I wrap up on this last part, our people are the ones who are going to build these houses. So I want them to participate in the workshops, get better at your art, share some of your knowledge with others, learn new things so that we can have a high quality of housing stock here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Devon Cornelius, WinFM. Mr. Prime Minister, as you spoke about the construction of smart homes here in St. Kitts, would there be any discussions with the NHLDC over in Nevis to possibly have some of these homes constructed in Nevis? And an update from national security, what is the status of plans to address the mold situation at police stations, namely the Charlestown Police Station and the Deep Bay Police Station?
Ended, the Charlestown and the Deep Bay. The Charlestown, I spoke to Premier Brantley and I spoke to the commissioner as well. We have already signed the contract to put them into a building with that homeowner, and renovations and dealing with that should start very, very soon, if it has not started as well. And that was part of the discussion with Premier Brantley. The other matter that we discussed, I spoke to the Director of Public Works 2 weeks ago, and he assured me that the contract has already been signed with the contractor, and that contractor should have already started. So after this, I'm going to call the Director of Public Works and ask him if the work has started, because the contract has been signed, money is there, the scope of work is there, and it's to get it done, Cornelius. So I encourage you to call the Director of Public Works, tell him, Dr. Joe said in the press conference, he spoke to you about the Bay Police Station, have you started? And then you can call the Nevis counterpart as well and ask them about the Charlestown Police Station. You could call my ministry and speak to my PS and ask her about the Charlestown Police Station, because that should have been started as well. And so in full transparency, you can call them as well and tell them that the Prime Minister mentioned it and you want to know where things are at. But we are very advanced, and I'm very sure that they would have started the Deep Bay as well.
And NHC?
Right, now NHC, right, in Nevis, I did not pursue that discussion with the premiers yet. I think in our second iteration in this period, I can probably see if a discussion can open up with respect to that. But I had not, up to that point, opened up a discussion with respect to that in Nevis.
And we're going to go back a little bit towards the housing situation, because there are a few bits of questions being bandied about on different sources with regards to the housing program. Now, for example, there's talk going around that this company, this Trinidad-based company, is going to create its own or set up its own concrete plant and import cement from China. This again, if this is true, it also has implications with regards to the relationship between St. Kitts and Taiwan. So I don't know. I would like you to at least speak about that issue.
I don't know why that creates issues between St. Kitts and Taiwan. We have a solid relationship with Taiwan. I said that this morning during the handing over. This is going to mark 40 years and the relationship is stronger than ever. So let me just take off the table anybody who is suggesting that this is going to affect that relationship. I made an official visit to Taiwan last year, my official state visit. This year, in our 40th anniversary, we are going to do things together, which we have started. They have a walk for the 40th anniversary. They handed over the medical equipment. We are pursuing a number of agendas. So I will just take that off the table. That relationship is unquestionable as far as that is concerned. Right. So let me tell you about that. Our companies here, the first one who will be called to produce that cement or concrete. Our companies here. And that is part of what we discuss as well. And so you can call Mr. Singh again. I'm very transparent. Call him. We discuss that our companies will be the companies to pursue. We have companies here that produce concrete. They are going to be fundamentally part of it as well. So that is where we are going with that. So if there are questions about it, I want people to think first our people, with respect to that. He did not give me an indication of where he is getting the cement from, but I can tell you where we have said that our concrete will be coming from. Now, we'll be pursuing a number of other capital projects. The hospital, 50 million US dollars, 60 million US dollars to be spent over 3 years. You know how many hundreds of jobs that will provide? We need concrete for that. We need equipment. We need material, for that. Concrete that will be had here. We are pursuing the Bastia High School. The tendering went out for the Bastia High School. Let me say about tendering and procurement. When we got there, the system was basically broken. We met a broken system. We are trying to fix it. We have issues with it. And so we are trying to perfect it as we build out, as we go ahead. We have not perfected it, the brokenness as yet, but we are getting closer there. So we sent out a tendering for the Bastia High School for its demolition and so forth. Remember that before you put out tendering, you have a whole few months of work before it gets to that point. So you just have gotten to that point. We are now in our tender. Same thing with the road to St. Peter's. We are in the process of creating the scope of work, and all of that is required for us now to get to the tender point. The same thing with the playfield, the stadium in Connery. We are now going through the plans, the bills of quantity, and the tendering which will take place with that. So the high school, the hospital, and so forth. And so these public institutions that the government would be paying for, these are going through the process at this particular time. But I would say, and leave it here, that we are going to need our producers of concrete because we are going to be pursuing multiple projects, capital projects, infrastructural projects at the same time. And we have to measure where our capacity, so we're going to need them. They're going to almost be. Because the other thing we're going to be pursuing, as I would say here, are the roads. There are places without roads in the communities. We are going to be pursuing that. So you can count them. Hospital, school, roads in the communities, which will be fundamentally concrete roads, I think. Well, we don't have a lot of concrete work, significant amount of concrete work, and housing by different pathways. For example, EJ Construction started housing in St. Peter's. I think Credit Union is supposed to continue its project. For example, you had another development of housing that is started. So there's still a lot of different pathways of pursuing housing, and we need all of our suppliers. And so those who produce concrete are going to be called upon in significant ways to produce.
I'd like to clarify the Trinidad project. Is this a private project? Is this a private company that made a proposal to the government about housing? And if so, on what basis was this company approved? And secondly, was there any, was it necessary to provide any guarantees, either from government to the company or company to the government? Because, for example, what happens if they don't deliver the number of houses that they say they're going to deliver? What happens if something goes wrong and they just simply stop the project?
Right. So
you know?
We have mechanisms of protection within there. One of them being, if you don't deliver what you don't deliver, then there's no delivery from our end. So I think we have guarantees of protection in there. And that is why I also say we're going to be pursuing different pathways. So the company is a legitimate registered company of Trinidad and Tobago. Approach the government. Of course, you would have done your due diligence to make sure that there are credible sources of funding. The company is coming with its funding. Is not depending on the government necessarily for that type of, for all of that funding, for example, and they made their proposal and they're going to bring new money into the country, which is where you want companies. Because a lot of things before were being pursued one way, maybe through the CBI program. And we are saying we have to pursue other developmental projects that are not CBI related. And so this is one such thing. But we have mechanisms inside that contract that would protect us. We will be protected, as a matter of fact.
Switching gears a bit,
Yes.
You've hinted that your government intends to remove the British monarch as the head of state. Do you have a timeline for this process so far?
You know, that was a question that was asked of me by by, I would say, the, the BBC interviewer or reporter, she asked that. I would say I don't have a timeline. As I've said to them, the people will be asked this question, and I think the people will provide the answer as well. And so I cannot give you a timeline, but I think I would be able to say that during this time, the people will be asked to discuss this. It's critical. I mean, we have gone from slavery all the way up to this point, and the question of where do we go as a nation will always be asked, and it is being asked. However, in pursuing that, the people decide that that is what they want to pursue. St. Kitts and Nevis will still remain a member of the Commonwealth and will still be a developmental partner with the UK. And we will still have the opportunity to strengthen our bonds with the UK. So there are two different things, really. One does not directly influence the other. One is not exclusive of the other. So our people decide to pursue this path that has nothing to do with our bonds with Commonwealth and our bonds with the UK, and having a lot of principles that join us together, principles of democracy and so forth, development, principles of protecting the earth and renewable energy. Our past history, the fact that we have so much of our people living in the UK, work in the UK, that's a special bond, and that will never really be broken, and we'll actually pursue to strengthen that bond, which is a separate question, of course, to who is the head of state.
Slightly related question. So, what is St. Kitts Nevis's position on pursuing the call for reparations?
So, we have spoken to reparations. I don't know if it was mentioned in the BBC report or not, but we are speaking about reparatory justice. Reparatory justice, and I think the Commonwealth before me would have put out a 10-point plan. But reparatory justice goes beyond reparations, because I don't want people to think that we are thinking ourselves as some victims. I am not in the victim playing game. I'm a free man. This is a free country, and we are pursuing our path of development. However, reparatory justice would acknowledge the fact that slavery did occur, that slavery has left legacy issues such as NCDs, violence, and has left us at a disadvantage in terms of pursuing our development agenda. We just have to acknowledge these are facts. For example, Japan, in the Second World War, I think they still had to pay something back. I think Germany had to pay something to the Jews. And not only that, St. Kitts and Nevis had to pay for the plantation owners. St. Kitts and Nevis pay through the land, they had to pay the landowners for the land, even though we had been slaves on the land and got no money. And not only that, the UK government paid the plantation owners, and not only that, the ex-slave owners in 1834, they got reparations. The slave owners got reparations, and then the slaves get nothing. So when we're talking about reparatory justice. Still today, we look around the world, there's a lot of discrimination. You go to and the discrimination is affecting us negatively. You have institutions that would reject you and me because of the color of our skin. Those are legacies from the old slave system, and we are saying that we have to deal with those institutional issues. That's part of reparatory justice. So I will flesh out more reparatory justice, and I think Professor Hilary Beckles, who I have had a very extensive conversation with, and we have our own reparatory committee here that my office is pursuing. So I would use the word reparatory justice and not just reparations. When people hear reparations, they think I'm just asking for money. But reparatory justice speaks to what were the ills created by this institution, and what are we going to deal and alleviate the ills that the people are still suffering as a result.
Day on this, but
yes, we can.
Okay. Another question on a different topic. There's been some discourse online about the government's handling of the poverty alleviation program, what is the government's policy with respect to that program?
Disbanded the program. As a matter of fact, the government had a program called MEND. We spoke about it. MEND was a program that was targeted to eliminate poverty. And so that program was ended in 2015, and a program was introduced where people receive $500 per month, which does not end poverty for anybody, really. What would end poverty is if people have the opportunity to own property, hence the houses, grow wealth, and get an increase in the minimum wage, which we are pursuing. So we are pursuing and give the children education and good health. So we are pursuing an agenda to really lift people out of poverty. But in terms of the cash that we give people, we have not stopped that at all. As a matter of fact, we have streamlined it, and we have given to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So we are continuing to pursue it. And so we are going to continue to work to improve that program as we go along. As a matter of fact, the social services will be launching a program that will look at how we're going to deal with poverty comprehensively as we go along. And so the cash transfer, that has not stopped, and we are still giving to thousands and thousands of people. I will say, though, that based on our these programs that we have, they are costing us, our social safety net, these ones, costing us about $250 million. We can't continue on that pathway. We have to find alternatives in terms of jobs, hence the massive infrastructure development we're going to have, hence giving people education, hence having development, the small business ministry and development bank with a small business facility. So we are pursuing those things to widen the opportunities for people to build wealth. So in a sense, I would say that that has not stopped. We continue it, and we are going to strengthen it, and we are going to strengthen ways of helping our people to really build wealth here in St. Kitts and Nevis. During that time, we have made sure that electricity costs remain low, $109 million a year to keep down electricity costs here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Water, we subsidize it heavily as well so that people get very low water bills. I think we might have the lowest electricity costs and maybe water bills in the OECS. If you look, we might have them. And it's because the government subsidizes them tremendously. We subsidize them a lot so people can have the basic amenities. So we are delivering a lot. We had promised people $1,000 rebate on electricity, but we have given people much more than that, because we are paying the FVC, which is the fuel variation cost, so that we can keep electricity down. And some people should talk about that. Why is it electricity cost in St. Kitts and Nevis still relatively so low? It is because we are carrying the burden as the government to make sure that, so that is a massive investment we are making to make sure that people can keep their lights on. And outside of that, we bought new generators, fix old generators, so that you don't have the current going and coming as they used to. So far, we have not been suffering that much. The water has been improved significantly because we have to buy water from Marriott and sell it as a subsidy, buy it at market price and sell it as a subsidized cost, so that our people can have access to water at least once a day. Even though we are going through a drought, we are trying our best. I met with the manager of Marriott this morning to discuss how can we get more water from you, because the farmers are crying, the plants are dying, the animals are without water. And so we are discussing how we can use the desal plant to get water to people, while looking at our long-term plan of a 3 million gallon desal plant, and to start drilling for water here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So in a great sense, there's a short-term plan and a longer-term plan. But to go back to your point, we are dealing with a lot of social safety net issue. PAP is just one of them. We have STEP. We have the alternative lifestyle. And we have electricity. And idea add water as well. Because now we are buying water at market price and selling it at a heavily subsidized cost. So low water costs, low electricity costs, so people can have at least a basic job while we recover from COVID and so forth. And we open up the economy. Presently, tourism is still moving along. We saw an increase in tourism when we expect a drop off. So people have catch on that St. Kitts and Nevis is a place to go to. The country is open up, come to St. Kitts and Nevis. The flights are still full. I just came from the UK and the flight was full. They said, please put your bag here and there because the flight is very full. And the American Airlines was the larger of the two planes that usually come to St. Kitts. And it was still full. Full coming in, and it looked like it's full going out. And we have Marriott told me this morning there's an increase in the hotel. And so we see that there has been a tremendous positive impact with respect to the hotel bounce back. So we are pursuing about 5 social safety net programs, including the food basket, which we are looking at, which we subsidize. So that can be a 6th one, so that people can have a chance to live here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So PAP is just part and parcel of what we are doing.
Okay, I want to go back. PAP, just a couple more things. I know that sometime there was a re-registration process, and can you tell us what's going on with that? And you touched on this. I was gonna ask, how sustainable is the program in and of itself? Because realistically, you cannot keep giving monthly allotments of money forever. So how sustainable is the program, and can you touch on the backlog and re-registration process?
Right, and you touch on a very, very critical point. Just doing the cash transfer every month is going to cost the government maybe $30 to $40 million this year. So just to tell people how robust the program still is in terms of cash transfer. And you touch on the point of sustainability. We are talking about developing a sustainable island state. That is not a sustainable process. So that is why we are looking at increasing minimum wage and expand opportunities for work. A country can only survive if the people work, and what they work for, they get a fair wage. And when I say survive in a meaningful, uplifting way. And so you are right that that cannot be the solution. We have to look for sustainable solution to deal with issues of poverty. And so what had happened is that this false sense of expectation of just cash transfer from the government was created. I mean, you can't sustain that. No country can really sustain that. We don't have oil here. We don't have diamonds and pearls. We depend fundamentally on tourism. We have the CBI program. We are now looking for sustainable industries such as energy as a sector and different type of manufacturing and so forth. But that is really not sustainable how it was established, and that is why we have to establish it properly. As you talk about the application, there was a backlog that they're working through, because it's so much. And of course, if you were to say that you can get this, of course, why people would not apply. But as a country, when we look back, when we sit back and look, can we really maintain this? Can this be a sustainable way of development? No, cannot be. But that is why we want to help people to grow well through home ownership, land ownership, increase wage, get better educated, start a small business, sharpen your skill, get out into the workforce and produce. Because a country where the people do not produce is a country that will perish. The Bible speaks of it. The Bible says, by the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread. That is inherent in the human experience, whether you believe in the Bible or not. So we have to get our people to be productive and to work and to create a society built on merit. Because passive cash transfer has its place for those who are most vulnerable. But we must get the productive people to work so that they can help the economy to grow and to continue. And that is the type of agenda we are pursuing. But the question becomes, have we abandoned? No, we are helping a significant number of persons still, because we think you just can't end the program abruptly like that. And there are people who have need that you still have to help while we transition into the more sustainable ways of getting people to live well in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Can you just, for an update, clarify the situation with the Cameroonians? What has become of them? What does the government intend to do with them? And the other thing is, it was touted as a situation of human trafficking. Were any of the survivors, at least there was an Antiguan, I believe, and we learned about someone from the Dominican Republic. Are those persons victims or perpetrators of the human trafficking? And if they are perpetrators, are they going to be charged?
Who orchestrated this, they should be charged and will be charged. And if I can recall, I think that the Antiguan, at least, that they who pursued it are charged. Right. I spoke to this matter very recently. I went and visited them, the Cameroonians, for full disclosure. I wanted to know who they are. Why are they here? Interestingly enough, when I met them, they are well-educated people. I went in, I know Cameroon speak French and English. I speak a little French, to see. I'm not as fluent in French as I am in Spanish, I know. And they are bilingual. Not only that, there are teachers among them, lawyers, business people, there are IT specialists and so forth. These people, the Cameroonians are professionals from what I picked up and what I gleaned. Because if you tell me something, I will ask 2 or 3 questions to see if you even have an idea. They're well-educated people. Just the way they speak English, their grammar. You can tell if a man is educated based on his grammar. Correct, Jason? You are a specialist in grammar. You get by, but you understand the point. You can tell easily. And then you hear them speak some French. And then you say, okay. So I picked up that. However, I said that we will get the UN involved. The United Nations is now involved. And they're going to start their own assessment. I think it's today or tomorrow. And from their assessment, they're going to give us a report. And then based on the report, we will take our final action. So you can touch base with our national security, our PS, and get details on that, but that is where we're at. Or you can even touch the UN, touch base with the UN representative who is here, and they will also be able to confirm that as well. So the UN has become involved to help us to deal with this matter. But I can tell you that they're well-educated people from my own assessment, but I'll get the official assessment from the UN. There are three bodies here of those who died. I have said to them, if nobody claimed the bodies, and we'll ask the UN to help us to see if there are family members in the United States who can claim the bodies, we will find out what their religion is. If they are Muslims, we'll get a Muslim imam to come in and bury them. If they are Christians, then we are a Christian society. We'll get a pastor to bury them. But we'll make sure that they are buried with the greatest of respect and in accordance with the religion that they practice. So we are going to pursue that as well. So when the UN give us the assessment, we'll know who they are, the religion they practice, and give them a burial befitting of a human being. We are civilized people, and irrespective of all these human trafficking issues, we will act like civilized people.
In a matter related to housing, over the past few days, I think 2 persons have approached me with regards to situations that have developed out of housing from the previous Labor administration headed by Dr. Douglas. In those times, they were building houses, no cupboards, tiling issues and all that kind of thing. One of those persons have expressed to me that, yes, they're paying for the homes, but based on their income, it's almost like they're at a standstill. There's a situation now where they can't finish their homes, but they're paying for it, and it's like they're getting nowhere. Is this government going to provide some kind of assistance program for those persons who seem to have fallen through the cracks, so to speak, in the new dispensation?
Right, so that is a very good question that you're asking, I would say. The reason why I say that is during that first housing revolution, there were many different types of solutions. Some people went from 3-bedroom to bedroom, 2-bedroom, based on what maybe your income was and what you could have afforded. And let me say, these houses were heavily subsidized. They were heavily subsidized because, of course, people had, maybe issues to pay for them. So I will say that. There were those that were adorned with all of the cupboards and so forth, and those that persons might say, look, just give me this and I will be able to do it so that I can keep down costs. So the persons had, a choice in it as well. The NHC, in its housing fear, will also look and try to get data with respect to this and see if this is a major issue that they can launch a program for as well. Because we are looking to see what are the issues. For example, we know people without bathrooms. I've committed, for example, in my constituency and throughout the country, we have a program where you don't have a bathroom, and we want you to get at least a flush toilet. We don't think people should be using pit latrines anymore in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have passed that. And so persons who have those, we're asking them to come in and see what we can do. So we are looking for different housing solutions to help people based on where they're at. As you can see, some of the housing, not to go too much because I don't want to spoil people having a fresh look at what is being offered. But basically, we'll have one bedroom. Somebody asks, why one bedroom? There are people who say, man, look, I just want a one bedroom, me a one man. Me no want nothing else. Me not gonna child, me not gonna nothing. What me want two bedroom for? That's a solution for that person. So different persons have different needs when it comes to housing, and therefore we should create a spectrum of solutions to meet the different needs that people have. So now you have brought that up. That is something I think NHC should look at and see if it is a major issue that they need to address. But in the many houses that Labour built, just to tell you, not such somebody who don't know, go away the impression that these are the only types of houses that Labour built. Labour built a plethora of houses to bring solution based on the needs of the person at a particular time. Okay.
Coast Guard, Prime Minister. I think the last time we spoke about the Coast Guard, there was some indication that there were some radar stations coming, onshore radar systems, yeah, and also new boats, a boat,
Yes.
right? Can you provide some update on that?
I will say that the boat is here, and it is, of course, being donated by the Americans. I want at this opportunity to thank the American government for its donation. So the boat is here, the boat is in water, and our people are going through the training. And so at the appropriate time, very, very soon, we'll have the official handing over after our people are trained and can man the boat based on it. So the boat is here. The onshore radar system is supposed to be completed by July. I spoke to the commander of the Defense Force. It should have been earlier. There was a little bit of delay and should be completed by July. These are critical. Why? And I spoke to the American ambassador. They will also bring into the office, the embassy, specialists, persons on violence and crime from Homeland Security. And so they will offer their specialized service to us as well. So I would say before August, we will have our boat and we'll have our onshore radar system. And so we'll be able to tell who is coming in our waters. Let me tell you, St. Kitts and Nevis is not land mostly. St. Kitts and Nevis, of all the space we have on Earth, the land is probably maybe 1/20th. We are 22,000 square miles, possibly. Square kilometers, I think. And our land is what, 200 and something square kilometers? And if you divide that, you see, right? So maybe 1/10 of it. So it shows, therefore, that we are really an ocean state. We have most resources out there that we have not even begun to tap into yet. We're big. I used to think we're small, but we're not small, we're big. At least we're medium sized. There are a lot of ocean out there where most of our resources still is. And so therefore, we need to know and man our resource and protect our resource, and we are going to develop the blue economy. And one of the things I discussed in the UK that I did not mention is the creation of blue bonds, but we'll discuss the concept of blue bonds in the near future. Blue bonds, how we are going to use that blue ocean out there to create blue bonds to help to develop St. Kitts and Nevis. In innovative concept, blue bonds.
Okay, we are about to wrap up this session of the roundtable. We'll allow for one more question, after which the Prime Minister will give his closing remarks.
All right. We've been talking about all of these national topics, and this is one topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I've raised it in almost every press conference. The arts are neglected every single year, and I will not sugar. I can give you a list. people who are much more knowledgeable than myself should be able to weigh in. But one of
the ads would come under the orange economy,
right,
and we are pursuing the orange economy, and therefore even your suggestion would mean a lot to us.
Specific question: the construction or development of a performing arts center. It's been in the works, it's been talked about, but there's never been any forward movement. What will the government be pursuing this specific project?
I smile because I asked the Minister of the Creative Economy to travel because we need to bring back a performing arts center. As a matter of fact, in Skipper right now is a project for performing arts center. I said it because you have asked it, and I would have left it for the minister to speak about. But I answered you today because you are right. You keep asking about it. Yes, we already have the plans, the land and the plans, the actual plans, and outlay. And I'm sure we can have a 3D depiction of it as well. We are going to pursue a performing arts center. And just to let you know, when it comes to the arts, in terms of museums and so forth, we are now pursuing the Bracho Museum. We are going to develop further the Monumental Park in St. Paul's. We are going to do France, our other national hero, his home in the village. We are also going to pursue, later in this term, the sugar factory as a museum. So you see how we're building out the museum. So we're going to do Bracho's home, which we have started, and we're going to do, a lot of these museums seems like they're going to be in constituency number 3, reflecting, well, Kitsodat is in my constituency, so I would have the sugar factory developed there. But we will have the Bracho's museum, which is in constituency number 2. We'll have one over in constituency number 6, which is the Monumental Park, which will expand. And we will go through all of them, as I've mentioned, and the sugar factory will also be pursued. So every year we want to take on. And the last one I wanted to mention, which we have started some work in acquiring the land, is the site in Buckley's for the Buckley's Uprising. We have already acquired land for it. We have already in discussion with persons about moving away from the land, and we'll develop that park. So we hope that we will be able to create in St. Kitts what you call a tour that just deals with parks and museums. So you can go from the National Museum to the Bracho's Museum to the Joseph M. France home to the Buckley's Uprising site. You can go over to the park in Connery, the Heroes Park. You can also then go to the sugar factory, and then you can go over in St. Paul's to the Bracho's Monument. Then you can take a trip to Brimstone Hill, and that is a beautiful, beautiful. And then you can go into constituency number 4, where the Carib joins and so forth are. And I hope maybe as we go year by year, that can be a project that comes forward that we can develop in constituency number 4. So you can have a whole day tour just visiting our museums and parks to get to know who we are as a people. And I think that you have to also include in that the Independence Square, that we take for granted a lot of the times, but it's a significant area that we need to really make a part of our history. We already done it, but we need to upscale it. So that is how we are mapping them out. So that is why you see we started with the Bracho's Museum. So you'll see us moving through one by one until we build out a beautiful systems of parks, monuments, and our history. People without history is like a tree without roots. That is what Marcus Garvey said, especially when he came here in the 1930s. Those are words of wisdom that we should really travel with.
On the same issue of national assets, for years, many, many years, Mr. O'Flaherty, who was head of the National Archives, had been begging for proper facilities to care the documents that were in her care. I know that at one point there was some talk about having a facility down somewhere in Limekeel or someplace like that, but nothing really happened. What is your government's plan with regards to the National Archives? And secondly, also in relation to the old Treasury building, or what is now the National Museum building. I understood from under the last administration, Team Unity administration, there was some pledge to provide some assistance to the National Trust with regards to that building. I think they were talking about the cost of restoration of somewhere over $3 million and so forth. So what is the government's stand on those two issues?
Well, as you can see from me talking about the parks now and me quoting all these people from history, I'm a student of history. I think and I believe in the ethos of Marcus Garvey that the people who do not know its history is like a tree without roots. It's very critical that we invest in our history because it defines us as a people. And so therefore, I have been in touch with Mrs. Etsu Bradshaw Keynes, I think, and she's now the head of the trust. And we are making advancement. As a matter of fact, one of the things we have discussed and I've pursued this is to get a specialist in museums who would serve both the trust and what we are trying to do from the government's end. So that is a major development. I have not spoken about it, but that is what we are pursuing right now. I've reached out, for example, to the Republic of China, Taiwan, to identify a specialist because they are known for their parks and museums to help us to build out these in such a way that they can be a significant part of our whole national image. So that we are pursuing. Now, with respect to the archives, I have visited, I love the archives. I visit the archives when I get the chance. I walk down the steps and walk in there. And we are going to digitize the archives. Digitize and digitalize the archives. We have already ordered the equipment to do such. We have already identified somebody to help us with it. And that is a major issue that we're going to pursue. All those documents, those slave registries and so forth, those things need to be digitalized right now. Why? They need to be because, preserving them is challenging. We are looking for ways of preserving them, but we can preserve them electronically while we preserve the actual document as well. So we have started to make moves on it, and we have invested already in equipment to digitalize all the documentation down there. So in terms of getting a facility, that will be another phase. But the first phase right now is to make sure we don't lose what we have and that we can capture it in such a way that we can preserve it for posterity. All right? Thank you very much. Right, so I want to thank the press once again. I think I like this format where we can just sit down. They ask very tough questions, but it allows me to calmly express my position on the various topics and allow for openness and transparency at the same time. And so I want to say that this government has been working very hard to pursue the national development agenda. We are making critical decisions that will have tremendous positive impact on our people. We want people to know that we are a country that is a peaceful country, believes in democracy, and would pursue strong relations with like-minded countries and encourage those who are not so like-minded to become like-minded. And that is why we are pursuing to strengthen our relationship even with the United Kingdom at this particular point in time. And so the trip to UK to participate in the coronation was a very successful trip because, as I've mentioned, we were able to bring back a number of tangible things. One, of course, being renal transplant, which I'll pursue, and renewable energy, particularly wind energy, which I'll also pursue, among the other things that I would have mentioned. I also want to remind the people what the changes that we're making to our health sector and how that would impact them positively. We touched on the housing matter as well, where I want to reiterate, we want all our contractors and builders to be a part of this, and heavy equipment operators. You are the backbone of this, and so we need you to come in. And so at the end of the day, as I wrap up, I want to say that we are pursuing with all of this what is called the sustainable island state. We are building it out based on 7 pillars. We will make a presentation to the cabinet coming this Monday, led by the Honorable Joel Clark. We will take that to a task force, which will be responsible for taking it to all the different sectors of St. Kitts and Nevis and to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Together, we have to work to pursue the sustainable island state. We can be the first in the Caribbean to do it, and we can do it because our people have always been the first in a lot of things. Our people have the capacity. We can do it. Let's do it, and let us be an example for the world to follow. Thank you very much for joining us again at this roundtable, where I had the opportunity to discuss with the press in this format very critical issues that deal with national development. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to engage with the media and maintain the level of transparency that your St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration has committed to. And I would also like to express appreciation to the media houses for assisting in the collaboration with the Prime Minister. And thank you once again for coming out and engaging with him. To our listening and viewing audience, thank you very much for tuning in. You were just listening to the Roundtable, a special interview with the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew. Be sure to tune in again next month for more.